Welcome back to the Ohio MMA podcast. I am your host. Joining me today is Mr. Mark Antonelli. What's up, Mark?
Hey man, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. We're here. We're a couple weeks out, and you are about to make your professional debut. How does it feel after you've had a pretty lengthy amateur career to finally be making your pro debut?
It feels good, man. I'm just excited to get in there. Really, I'm excited to show what I can do. That's nowadays. I think a lot of people started MMA with like maybe a delusional level of self confidence, and I think I probably started it with a delusional level of self doubt. And just like moving through my amateur career, I got a lot of good experience, and I learned a lot. And I'm just really excited to take this next step.
Yeah, before we talk about your pro debut, let's look back on your amateur career a little bit. You had 9 amateur fights. You were 7-2. You fought, I think, only in Ohio. You actually fought a bunch for Ohio Combat League. The two fights that actually stick out to me the most were number one, your last fight against Jermaine Anthony. You won. And then the fight against Canyon Tackett, who super tough opponent, which was when you lost actually your last two fights. But I feel like the reason that your last fight stands out to me is because you, I think, showed a kind of different side, way more aggressive than I had seen you before, and you ended up getting the first round submission win. When you look back on your amateur career, was it fulfilling? Where do you feel like there were things you didn't do that you wanted to do, or how do you think about your amateur career?
Um, Overall, I'm just grateful for all the experiences I had. Like, I think, eventually, like, they just lead you to a better place. So I think, like, the wins, the losses, like, you're going to win fights and people are going to say you're great. And then you're going to lose fights and people are going to say you suck. And that's just MMA. And um, I'm happy with, like, how I performed overall. But definitely, I'm glad that I did so many amateur fights, and I'm glad that Josh, made me wait until I was really ready because I was asking him to go pro, a year ago, and he was just saying, just wait a little longer, just wait a little longer. And after that last fight in December, he said, okay, I think you learned the lessons that you needed to get
Yeah,
ready to
and
go.
And you talk about Josh Williams, your head coach at Ronin Training Center, who has been, around the block many, many times. And he's actually had a bunch of fighters recently on your team have turned pro. Do you think that kind of contributed to like the fact where you're like, you're antsy to turn pro because you've had Asher Frederick, Skylar Bray, Melvin Harris, Max Metzger just turned pro. You've had a lot of teammates turn pro within the last like year or so. And now you finally get your shot. But I feel like Josh is like the perfect coach, that he's had so many fighters that he's taken through their entire amateur career. Is that something that you just, put all your faith in Josh and said, I'm going to go pro when you say I'm ready?
Yeah. I just really learned to trust Josh. And, I think even in my last fight, like, you could hear, like, he's like, stick the jab out there, just jab immediately, kick his lead leg out, kicked his lead leg out immediately. Like, I just, nowadays, like, I've really had that kind of relationship with Josh where I trust him to be my mentor and my coach. And, when he was telling me, you're not ready yet, you're not ready yet, like, I just didn't really know why. But I think a lot of it, looking back, was just mental stuff that I had to go through. And I think I had the right experiences to be ready. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, definitely, like, is, you, when all your teammates and all your friends are going pro, and you just want to take that next step because you love the sport so much, and you want to try and go to the top. It's like one of those things where they just motivate you even more to make that jump.
Yeah. And making the transition to your pro career, you're fighting on Ohio Combat League 30, June 29th in Columbus, Ohio. You're facing Marcus Crawford, who is definitely a veteran of the sport. He had a long amateur career just like you. He's 0-3 as a pro, but he's faced some really tough opponents in his first couple fights. Is this the type of opponent that you expected in your first fight, or what do you think about the matchup?
I didn't really have a lot of expectations as to, like, who it would be. I think we went through, I mean, a bunch of different names. I think I said yes to maybe 8 or 9 guys, and this was the one guy that stepped up and said yes to me. And, I think his record doesn't really reflect maybe how good he is. I know he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I know he's a really good striker. And I'm just, I know he's faced a really high level of opponents in his last couple of fights. And I even watched his last fight. I thought he got robbed. So, um, I think he's a tough opponent, and I'm just excited to test myself against guys at this level and see where I stack up.
Yeah, and the fight cards. It seems like for OCL just continue to keep getting better and better. And you fought a bunch for OCL. Do you like the fact that you've spent most of your career for one promotion? I know you have had a couple of fights for other promotions. Like your last amateur fight was for Cage Thunder. You fought for BCM. Do you like fighting? Kind of having and also being able to fight close to home in Columbus. I feel like is probably an advantage at least at this point. But do you like that you have a kind of hometown promotion?
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps. You sell more tickets, you make more money. And there is there's a familiarity to it. And you just want. I think on fight day, you just want to you don't want there to be too much chaos, right? You want to control the things that you can control. And, if you've been to that venue before and you've fought for this promotion before, you just kind of have a little bit more of an idea what to expect. So I definitely feel a level of comfort fighting for OCL, but I'm also glad like my last 4 amateur fights, I fought for 3 different promotions. So, like you said, I was able to get experience fighting elsewhere and being the B side guy instead of the A side guy type of deal. So, I think that's a big deal as well. I think that you can't just fight for one promotion your whole career, but I'm definitely looking forward to fighting for OCL for my pro debut.
Yeah, and so I know your main job. You used to be a teacher, and with that, you were a wrestling coach as well at West High School. I see the West sweatshirt.
Oh yeah,
My brother actually went to West High School during his time. And coaching at people that don't know, West is part of Columbus City Schools. Kind of a more not inner city, but maybe a little bit of a rougher school. But what was your experience like? First teaching and then also being able to be a wrestling coach there as well.
I mean it was a great experience. I taught for 4 years. Was a wrestling coach for 5 years. This was the last year that I'm going to coach for a little while. I decided to kind of step back from the program and allow someone else to take over so I could focus a little more on MMA and just grow my business. But yeah, I mean, it's just definitely wild stories, lots of fun, lots of great relationships with like the staff and the teachers and a lot of the students there that I'm still really close with. A bunch of my wrestlers will probably be at the fight. So, I really treasured like my time there and I just thought it was really cool.
Yeah, and you mentioned your company. I thought it was a great story. It seems like you definitely are betting on yourself and in all aspects of your life. You left your teaching job to do full time your moving company. Which that's I feel like that's a huge step, right? I feel like do you feel like that kind of like is kind of connected to your MMA career where you're like I'm a pro fighter, but then I'm also kind of have maybe a little bit of the flexibility to put in the time and training. um, and it definitely, like I said, it seems like you're definitely betting on yourself in a big way.
Yeah. I think that I was never really the type of person to bet on myself, which was, this has like been a big growing period for me for sure. But like, it just seemed like like I was making all the right moves, I was, and the way that things have been going lately, I feel like I have been, making the right choices with that. And, it definitely gave me a lot of opportunities to train a lot more. Like I'm training with some of the best guys in the world on a you know pretty frequent basis now, and it's given me a lot more flexibility in my training and just the ability to like really dive into doing it full time and not being like caught up in so much other stuff. Like it's teaching is a full time job, and people know like how much mental and emotional energy it takes to do that, and coaching is the same way. Like a lot of the kids, that I coached, like I'm like their dad, and I've lived that for a long time, and I love those kids so much, man. It's just that I really I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to chase my own dreams, and I just kind of sat down with my wife, and we kind of finally decided like, hey, let's just go all in and see what happens for a little while.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like I was going to ask you if there was like a catalyst to maybe where that you felt that the maybe the flip or the switch flip, but it sounds like you got the okay from the wife. So I feel like that's that's the most important thing, right?
Yeah, that helped a lot.
But you're fighting as you mentioned in Columbus, and the one thing that I talked to Josh after the last event in May, and he's talking about a lot of the amateurs and the guys coming up and the young guys, and he said the fighters a lot of times like they're happy to finally get a fight because they're tired of Asher beating them up in the gym, because Asher doesn't care if you're day one, or if you're Dan Spawn, he's going to go the same speed with you. Do you feel like you mentioned the deep room there at Ronin, but the other thing too is like you've got a lot of guys that are maybe not necessarily in your exact weight class, but a lot of guys that are similar, where you can get like really aggressive guys who are maybe smaller than you, but then also guys to like Max Metzger, who is a weight class or two up, who is another similar aggressive style, and then you guys have all the way up to middleweights and heavyweights as well. You've got a well-rounded a crew there. Do you feel like that's something where you're like, man, the fights are easy because the days in the gym are hard?
Yeah, I mean, definitely to a degree. I've been really just trying to surround myself with like my main training partners from like day one have been Kobe and Max. And I really think that they're two of the best guys in the country right now. So I mean that's huge. And then I train with Melvin all the time, who's an animal. Asher, like you mentioned, Asher has no fear. Like even though I'm a lot bigger than him, he'll spar with me and he brings it. And now like I'm able to spar with Matt Brown a lot more this camp, and that's been really helpful. That's kind of opened my eyes a lot to some of the higher levels of striking in the sport, and just some of the guys over there. And then like also like every week, Dante Leon and some of the best jujitsu guys in the world are coming to our gym, and we're rolling for over an hour every week. So it's been like really just kind of elevating my level. And I've just been trying to expose myself to the highest levels possible, so that when you said like when I get in there, it's like okay, cool. This guy isn't going to bring anything that my teammates aren't going to bring. Right? He's not going to be stronger than Kobe. He's not going to be faster than Max. He's not going to be trickier than Melvin. Right? It's just you have all these different looks, and it's really I think our gym is growing into one of the better places in the United States to train for MMA. I really do. I think that the culture has been really curbing upwards, and it's cool. Like you mentioned, we have all these younger guys who are kind of coming into the gym, and they've been doing really well lately, and they've kind of helped carry the momentum forward a little bit too. And it's nice. I remember a couple of years ago, like when we started, I felt like I was always looking up to like Travis Davis, Lance Phillips, Stan Spawn, right? And now these kids are coming in and they're looking up to, me and Kobe and Max and Melvin and Asher and these guys who were a little bit more experienced. And we're still trying to make our dreams happen. We're also like driving these kids forward to help us and help them.
Yeah, it was crazy in the last OCL show seeing three kind of fresh fresh fighters out of Ronin. Alex Hazelwood, who his fight, I don't know what the what the deal with that one was, but that was kind of a weird ending.
He checked a kick actually. That's what did it. He
Yeah,
checked a kick like right in the beginning, and the kid just kind of folded. Yeah.
I didn't even see that. And then Donovan Hughes, Donnie, he seems like he's going to be a beast. He a guy like ducked into a head kick and got blasted by. That was like one of the best strikes of the night, and unfortunately ended in a no contest. And then I like the swagger of Ethan Shirk, man. He seems like a guy who is he that same way in the gym. Like I mean, for a 2-0 guy. The amount of confidence he has, I feel like you probably could maybe could use a little bit of that as well of what he has as a 20-year-old 2-0 guy.
Yeah, no, I take a lot of inspiration just watching those kids, like the level of confidence they had in there and how comfortable they were. I thought it was awesome to see. And yeah, Ethan is definitely like that in the gym. He's a tough kid. I remember he came in his first day sparring and he was like trying to take my head off, and I had to kind of teach him a little bit. But he's definitely like come a long way, and he's getting a lot better.
Yeah, I actually called his first fight and went back and rewatched it because I think he was an independent fighter for his first fight, and then came into Ronin for his second fight. But you can definitely see it's rare when you see a guy who's independently trained come in, and you're like, man, he has some skill. Like get into a gym and hone this, and he's gonna be scary, which it definitely seems like that's what happened. I mean, he's already the amateur main event for his second fight, but. Yeah, man, I'm excited to call your fight. I feel like it's been a long time since I've been able to call one of your fights. But yeah, the card looks like for OCL 30 looks pretty deep. I know Asher is going to be in the main event. We've got you, and then there Dom John's returning. Looks like a really deep card. Do you look at that a little bit? I know you probably look at your own teammates, but do you look at like the fight card and say like, I'm a fan of this guy, or maybe guy not even on your team, or like, do you just worry about yourself?
I try to just worry about myself, but I am definitely a big fan of the sport. I think we all are. And, there's definitely guys that I like to watch fight and stuff, but, if I'm fighting on that night, like I can't even watch my teammates fight. It's too much emotional energy. Maybe I'll watch if one of them is first or second, maybe I'll watch that one. But if someone's going on right before me, like I got to stay focused on what I have to do and getting the job done. But I'm excited to see, Asher's fight afterwards and just watch the card play out.
Yeah. Do you have an issue like with the guys after you? You're decompressed, or like do you just like after your fight, do you like to go out and watch the guys after you, or just it's the guys just in general? You don't like to watch your teammates?
I'll definitely watch after me, or if I'm not fighting, I'll watch everyone fight. But if I'm fighting, I just try to stay focused until my job is done for the night, and then after that, I can relax and hopefully eat some pizza.
Yeah.
Been thinking about that a lot the last couple of weeks.
That's the best part. So you actually you're a really big guy and you're fighting at 145, right? Again, are you fight? Yeah. So you actually
Yeah,
when you were making 155 as an amateur on same day weigh-ins, I was like, man, how's that guy making 155? Because you're not on like you're tall, but you're also like pretty like you well built. Like you're not a skinny like beanpole guy. Like I think you're at least 6 feet and 145. How are you making 145, man? That's crazy. I guess no pizza helps, but
yeah. After I think after my third amateur fight, I fought Devin Rhodes, and he was one of the toughest guys I ever fought. And I remember Kobe was like, "Hey, you need to get in the weight room." And I really had never lifted weights before. Like I was he told me I was a bag of bones, and I was getting folded by like 205 on the squat rack, and he's like, dude, like, I can't believe you're even doing fights or winning fights, like with how weak you are, and so I started getting in the weight room a lot more. And but I think that I always kind of just looked bigger than I really was. Like I don't think I had a ton of muscle back then. But yeah, I started working with strength and conditioning coach Dylan Seeley, who's world class. I'm with him 2 days a week. Me and Max and some of the other guys, Kobe, are working with him. And I have a buddy named Sean Carew. He owns a business called Wellness Flow, and he's been helping me out a lot with just like nutritional stuff, but also like supplements and just getting healthy. And then like working with Eddie over at Immortal Diet. Like I used to eat fast food before all my fights. Like I was, not like the day before the fight, but like, leading up to the fights, I was eating terrible diet. Like I definitely grew up eating microwave dinners all the time and stuff like that. And that's like it's kind of a hard habit to get out of, So I really, for the first time the last 6 months, I've just been, making meal preps and eating really healthy. And um, I never really walked around that heavy for 55. Like I think when I was really trying to put on weight, I was walking around like 75, but I was definitely like a little bit fat at the time. I was just trying to do whatever I could to put on weight.
yeah.
And now I'm probably walking around under 70 outside of camp, so around 70. So
Yeah.
it's not going to be that bad, but it's definitely not going to be fun. And I'm looking forward to eating some good food afterwards.
Yeah, I do. I eat good food before, during, after. That's nice that,
Yeah.
but yeah, I run a lot so that I can eat and drink whatever I want. But I still, still, I'm like, I probably should eat a little bit better. But the last thing I wanted to ask you, so one thing that I've noticed a lot recently in Columbus is, of course, you've got Ronan, you've got Matt Brown's Immortal Martial Arts. I've seen a lot more. It seems like cross training and fighters in the Columbus area specifically really helping each other out, especially like the fighters who are maybe at your level that are like advanced amateur ranks and pros. And you mentioned talking training with Matt Brown. Is that something that you've seen? I don't know if you're going to other gyms or not, but it's probably nice being at Ronin. You can just have people come to you. But um, I never saw that before, which is kind of surprising to me. What was like the catalyst to that, and what got that started? You guys turning and making everybody else better, because I feel like definitely see that like the levels of the fighters in Columbus has just continued to grow, and then I feel like the number of fighters, number of guys where I'm like, this guy could be in the UFC, this guy could be in the UFC. Like there's
Mm.
like more than I feel like I've ever seen in like one time period in a really small area. Um, what do you think led to that?
I think slowly we just started kind of going over to different gyms, and they started coming to us, and just kind of all training together, and kind of becoming friends. Letting go of like maybe like thinking about whether or not we're going to fight down the line or whatever. Like I think we all realize that we're training to fight, some of the better guys in the world, right? Like I don't want to be fighting in Ohio, 8 fights from now, unless there's a huge card, unless there's a LFA or a UFC card in Ohio or something, right? But like, I think we all realize that we're all trying to just make it in the sport, and our best bet is kind of to work together and get together and make it happen, you know, because there is a lot of things that like we can pick up from those guys, and I think that we do a lot of things that they don't necessarily put as much emphasis into. So I think that we're just all learning from each other, and it's been a lot of fun, man. It's been really good to kind of get to know guys at different camps, and have guys come in to spar and to train, and yeah, I think it's going to make a big difference. I think people will see on fight night that I've really been putting myself in the most uncomfortable situations that I can, to learn how to be just as good as I really am in there.
Yeah, I follow Pittsburgh pretty closely as well, and I feel like when fighters in that area started doing that maybe like 8 or 9 years ago, and all of a sudden you see like the the level of fighters coming out of that area and guys making the UFC and higher promotions, it only seems to make fighters better. But yeah, man, I'm excited for your fight June 29th, OCL 30. Anything else you want to mention? Any sponsors, thank yous, anything like that? You can thank anyone except for Josh Williams.
All right, thanks to Josh Williams. Thanks to yeah, all my coaches, man, Dylan Seeley, Sean Carew. Um, thanks to my training partners, Kobe, Max, Melvin, Marcus has been a big help this camp. Moral diet optimization. Shout out to Emerald Green Lawn and Landscape, Kaizen Clothing. Yeah, man, I appreciate everybody who comes and supports me, and I'm just really excited. Go buy a ticket for OCL, man. Put my name at checkout, and come watch me beat some ass.
Yeah, such an awesome venue, man. I feel like it reminds me of like an old school like venue, like the when I'm like cage side calling the fights, like it feels like the crowd's like right on top of you. Like it feels like an old school, like a Coliseum type feel. It's definitely a
Mm.
cool venue. But yeah, if you can't make it, the fights will be on combatsportsnow.com. I will be on commentary once again. But yeah, man, thank you so much. OCL 30, Mark Antonelli, Marcus Crawford, pro debut. And we will be back next week with another episode.